Hey everybody, and welcome back to another Max Velocity weather forecast. And in today's forecast, we'll be breaking down multiple severe weather events that'll be taking place across the United States over the next several days that'll bring the risk for significant damaging winds, large to very large hail, and perhaps a few tornadoes. I'll give you the latest breakdown on everything that you need to know in this forecast, but let's first begin with what's happening across the United States today, and we'll first begin with the Ohio Valley, and this is where we're seeing a ton of showers and storms this morning. There has been some severe weather out of this. We've seen a few tornado warnings even then overnight, and as well as some significant damaging winds, and all this activity is moving down to the south and east, and it is bringing a concern for at least some flash flooding. In addition to that, there is going to be some severe weather here throughout the early afternoon hours with that associated system. And then further back out to the north, we do have a little spin up here. That's from a low pressure system. We are seeing some showers and storms that are going to be starting to fire up in parts of the Ohio Valley and the Northeast over the next several hours, and that'll all be associated with our next threat of severe weather, which is today. And we have an enhanced risk of severe weather for some areas, and we'll be talking more on that here in just a few minutes, so make sure you stay tuned. It's going to be a pretty significant event up there today. And then further back out to the west, not a whole lot of activity in the western United States. It's fairly dry, maybe a few showers and storms, but it's nothing too out of the ordinary there. And then for those in the Midwest, we had severe weather yesterday. That is all cleared out for the time being, but another chance of at least some showers and storms will return as early as Monday, so it's going to not really be that dry for that long. We're going to see more rain come here not too far from now, so make sure you're staying weather aware there. Maybe let's talk more about the weather pattern that's impacting the United States, and we're going to look at the jet stream, because this really gives us an idea of what's happening in terms of the weather across the United States at the upper levels, which really correlates to what's happening at the lower levels as well. So as of right now, our jet stream is sitting well back up to the north. This is pretty typical for this time of the year. It's not really rare by any means, but our low pressure system right now, again, is sitting over parts basically north of Michigan, so in southern Canada, west of Toronto. That is where our low pressure system sits, and that's what brought the severe weather yesterday, and what also is bringing the severe weather today for parts of the Northeast and the Ohio Valley. And this is what we're gonna have to watch for over the next several days, is this ever-growing jet stream. As it strengthens over the next several days, we're gonna be watching for increased risks of severe weather. So as we go into Sunday, notice this jet stream starts to dip again. We'll have another trough come out of Canada as we go into late Sunday. This could actually bring some showers and storms and maybe some severe weather to parts of the Midwest on Sunday. Now, the severe weather threat right now is low. This will be a positively tilted trough. So the reason why I mentioned that this is a positively tilted trough is because positively tilted troughs are not always known for producing massive severe weather outbreaks. It's a lesser chance than when we have negatively tilted troughs, which help to pull more moist air out of the Gulf of Mexico, and they also help to produce more wind shear. So that's really the biggest difference there. But overall, the upper level wind's still going to be pretty strong, so there's going to be at least a chance for some severe weather. Not really a high risk right now by any means. It's on the lower side. It's only a marginal threat right now, but for parts of at least maybe the northern central plains, maybe the western Midwest as we go into late Sunday. By Monday, notice this low pressure system moves through parts of the Midwest, and also don't want to forget this, the heat dome that's sitting down in the southern plains and the Gulf Coast, that'll continue to bring that relentless heat to a large chunk of the United States. So unfortunately, the heat is going really nowhere right now. Once we go into Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, notice we're really going to continue to see a pretty active jet stream. Another low pressure system will dip out of Canada as we go into late Wednesday into Thursday. This could become negatively tilted as we go on a Friday, and that could actually pose maybe a little bit more of an increased risk of severe weather by the later half of the week, but there's a lower confidence there. And the other problem is, where will this actually set up? Because if it's setting up in the Northeast, it won't be nearly as favorable for that type of severe weather outbreak in comparison to maybe back down like the central or southern plains. It'd be much more favorable in that type of environment. And once we get into Saturday into Sunday, that heat dome starts to move further up to the north, and it's really not going anywhere. The peak of summer's here, which means that this relentless heat is going to continue, and the extreme heat across the large chunk of the United States. So make sure you're staying safe. Again, we only got a few more weeks until fall. We're about 40 days away. Again, you can get there. We're not too far away from that. All right, let's talk more about the severe weather potential for the next several days. And we're going to begin with today's severe weather risk. It's a pretty large area today. I mean, we are talking about 3 different areas that we need to watch for. One of which is going to be back down the central plains and parts of the southern plains. This is for isolated damaging winds and some isolated large hail this afternoon and evening. Then back over in parts of the Dixie Alley and as well as down through the Mississippi Valley, the southern Ohio Valley. This is where we're watching for the threat of a little bit of isolated severe weather here through the early afternoon. That's primarily out of that damaging wind threat that's pushing down to the south. It might continue through the mid to late afternoon as well, but overall the threat will start to go lower as we go throughout the afternoon. And then back up into the Northeast, this is our main event today. We have an enhanced risk of severe weather, and that does include parts of the Northeast like Pennsylvania, southern New York, eastern Ohio, and as well as into northwest New Jersey. Slight risk does surround that back into parts of western New England and as well as back into the Ohio Valley. Main concerns for today will actually be damaging winds. That's the main concern. It usually is with these type of events. The main concern will be scattered to numerous damaging winds between about 60 to 70 miles per hour. So make sure you're staying weather aware, have multiple ways to receive alerts, and also be prepared for the threat of flying trampolines. We have a medium risk of that today. And if you're watching yesterday's live stream that we had back up in the upper Midwest in Minnesota, there was a flying trampoline while Vince Walty was storm chasing an active tornado warning. So that's obviously a threat today, and it can be very dangerous. So make sure you hatch down your trampolines and also cover any loose lawn items, cover plants, all that sort of stuff. Then also the large hail threat is actually going to be a little bit more significant, especially across parts of southern and western New York, back through northern Pennsylvania. There's a hatched area, which means that there is a low chance for hail exceeding 2 inches in diameter. So make sure you're protecting your vehicle today, because hail over the size of 2 inches in diameter can definitely cause damage to your windshield. And it obviously can cause dents as low as a quarter-sized hailstone. So you want to make sure you're also protecting your vehicle for that reason as well. Tornado risk for today, it's on the lower side of things, but there is a 5% probability right now across northern Pennsylvania, southern New York, 2% probability outside of that. So overall, it's a low chance for a few tornadoes, but we are going to be watching for that threat of maybe a tornado or two across that region for today. I might go live for this. It's a low chance, but make sure you're subscribed to the channel and click the bell icon down below. If and when we go live, you'll be notified. But again, as of right now, it's a low chance for now. All right, for the timing today, we'll be watching for storms to continue to move down to the south and east throughout Tennessee and Kentucky. That's the main threat for this afternoon there. Damaging winds being possible, maybe even throughout the mid to late afternoon, we could be seeing storms there. Look back up here near Ohio, by the way. I mean, we're going to be looking at some pretty significant storms up there. Those could be very well capable of large hail, damaging winds, and maybe a couple tornadoes. Once we go into the evening hours around 6, 7 o'clock, storms are going to be exiting Ohio, and then back down near Georgia and as well as Alabama. Those storms will move down to the south and east. Maybe still some damaging winds with that, but it's going to be a very isolated and localized threat overall down there. And if you're back up in the northeast, it'll be a pretty active day today. Storms will fire up during the early afternoon hours, just around 2 o'clock. Storms will be ongoing across parts of upstate New York, and then more supercells trying to form back over near Ohio. We'll also be watching for some storm activity near and north of Buffalo. Again, all this activity will be capable of mainly damaging winds, but maybe some large hail and an isolated tornado or two. This is by around 6 o'clock. Storms will be pretty disorganized, but this will be mainly damaging winds going toward western New England. And then this activity back over here, there could be a couple storms in there that are rotating a little bit with maybe some large hail and maybe damaging winds, perhaps a brief tornado. And eventually going to the evening hours by 9 to 10 o'clock, storms moving to the east. Overall, the severe weather threat by this point is much lower, and then overnight into Sunday morning, overall the storms will be at a lesser extent by then. And then going into suspicious storms Sunday, we do currently have a large slight risk of severe weather across parts of the central plains and even back through the Ohio Valley and the lower Midwest. Right now, the main concern is damaging winds and as well as large hail. Those are the main two concerns. But look at this tornado risk. There's actually a small 5% tornado risk across parts of southern Missouri. So make sure you're staying weather aware, have a tornado action plan in place for tomorrow, because there will be a chance for maybe a couple of tornadoes across that region. All right, here's the timing for tomorrow. Storms will fire up during the afternoon hours, just around 3 or 4 o'clock. Storms firing up back over in the Texas Panhandle. That's where most of this activity will begin with. High pressure system down to the south will help to rotate these storms west to east, so they're going to be kind of going in this direction tomorrow. Eventually, by around 6, 7 o'clock, these storms were moving to the east, with damaging winds being the main concern and some large hail. There could be a tornado threat, though, that evolves as we go into the late evening and overnight hours. There's a low chance to go live for this as well. Eventually, by around midnight or 1 in the morning, storms moving throughout parts of southern Missouri, with that low-end tornado risk here existing in some of that storm activity. Again, a little bit more shear there will help to increase that tornado risk just a little bit. And eventually going into the late overnight hours into early morning hours on Monday, those storms will move off to the east. And then going into Monday, we do currently have another slight risk of severe weather for parts of the East Coast and as well as back in the Mid-Atlantic and Ohio Valley. Damaging winds are currently the main concern, but maybe some large hail as well. And going into wacky weather Wednesday, there's another slight risk of severe weather back through parts of Minnesota. We'll talk about more details on this in our next forecast, so make sure you stay tuned. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure to hit the like button down below and subscribe if you've not already.